Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Let's Play Banished Part 1. As always, my name is eckohour, and I will be the disembodied voice hosting this Let's Play. So first, I would like to apologize for, once again, being, I guess the best way to put it is extremely inconsistent in my updating schedule. I know I said that I was going to try and start updating 5 days a week, and I have not been doing that. Put simply, I've just been doing a terrible job, and I've been letting myself and everybody else down. This past week, it was a combination of being sick and the game that I was trying to have be my next Let's Play, just crashing a lot. It was going to be another Sins of a Solar Empire Let's Play, but it was going to be involving a mod. And unfortunately, the mod taxes the game more than it's meant to be. The game is only designed for 32x, and so it only has about 4 gigs of RAM that lets it like breathe. So if you exceed that 4 gigs of RAM, the game will crash. And this mod has a lot of graphics and a lot of moving parts in it that actually ends up exceeding that 4 gigs of RAM a lot, especially on my computer. I like to run things at max settings, so unfortunately, unless I figure something out there, or unless the mod ends up improving the optimization for it, I don't think I'm going to be able to record it. It's a fun game to play, but when I start recording it, it's when it starts to see problems. But instead, I wanted to do this game that I've been playing a lot lately. It's called Banished. If you are visiting this video, you most likely recently saw it on Steam. It is a lot of people have been having a hard time describing this. It is basically a city building survival game. It is reminding a lot of people of like Tropico and Anno, with a little bit of maybe Dwarf Fortress or towns mixed in. So you have your buildings that you can build, you have your town that you can build, but whereas most other games are about exploring dungeons or building up a empire or building up a city that is a economic powerhouse, such as perhaps in Anno or in Tropico, which you're trying to build your nation. In this game, you just want to build a settlement that can survive. And once you've kind of gotten the survival down, then maybe you could start thinking about making yourself a little bit of an economically viable town, even though the trading system isn't about making your town more wealthy. It's about keeping your town alive. There is a trade port feature. But in any case, this was a game developed by the developer Shining Rock Software. I do believe it was made by only one guy. He recently released this to Steam, and it's blown up in popularity, and really I can understand why. It's a really great looking game for just one guy being done with it. It's got a lot of variables into it. It's a lot of fun. It's really challenging, and it's very hard. We'll look at that here in a moment. So without much further ceremony, I'm going to jump right into it here. We're going to go to New. We're going to play on the Valleys type with a large map. I'm going to keep it large. We'll keep our everything else kind of middle of the road. So we'll keep our climate fair. We'll have our starting conditions be medium. We'll leave our disasters on. And we're going to name our town Eckoburg. There we go. The Town of Eckoburg. So I'm hoping to make a successful town, and if I can, then I've done a few different towns, all of them except for my most recent one, which you can actually kind of see in the background here. And if I ever find time, I'll actually show this town off for you guys. I'm pretty proud of it. It's the one town I've built that's actually been successful. But most of my other towns have died through various reasons, but I'm hoping with this one I'll be able to do, I think I've learned enough that I might be able to do something successful, and I can kind of show you guys a little bit of what to do. So let's go ahead and hop right in here. Okay, so here we are. We started our town. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up some of my information here. I like to always start with my map, which we will put right over here. We'll also open up our professions window, our event log, and our resource monitor, and all that kind of stuff. Alright. We'll put the event log right here, and our resource monitor right down here. Okay, so first thing to know about this game is, and I'm going to assume anybody who's looking at this or playing this has had a look at the tutorial. If you haven't, do so, because there's a lot of stuff that you need to learn. A tutorial is a lot of reading, which is necessary reading. You definitely want to read what it has to say and absorb it. What you have over here is you can control your time. This will bring up a lot of different menus and information. Like I can open this up and it'll show me what my limits are on my items. Things like learning how pathing goes for your villagers. That's for optimizing where they live. That comes into priority later. You can set town locations. You can do a whole bunch of other stuff. These are your homes and housing. Right now all we need to worry about is one of these. We can build roads, storage, town services, food, which is extremely important. If more than anything, what you're going to end up failing in this game is either people are going to freeze to death or they're going to starve to death. And you'll see, hopefully, I'll be able to exhibit that here in a bit. Various other stuff and a whole bunch of good stuff. So we'll get right into it. So we've got about 10 people and 8 children. That's what this is right here. It's divided up by adults, students, and children. We're not going to see students for a while. So the first thing you want to do is they've got these little house icons over the heads. It means they need homes. So we're going to go ahead and build ourselves some homes. I think we've got enough wood and stone to build a couple. Let's see here. We're going to want at least 5 starting out, because I do believe it is 2 adults to a home. So we'll build one here, and oh crap, let's cancel that one. I also do like to get all fancy into my designs here. I like to make neat looking villages, so take from that what you will. We'll also set, it's still snowing and it's early winter, that might be bad. Yeah, we're gonna set all 10 to you to quickly build those. They will hopefully start setting to work on building these things, and as soon as that's done they can start clearing some of our resources. Do that right here. While they're doing that, I'm going to play at a slow speed. You can do anywhere between 1 times, 2 times, 5 times, and 10 times. We're going to do on 1 times for now because on the medium and in hard, time is of the essence, and you want to be ready for your next winter. So I don't want to hurry through this, but I can explain some things. So you've got different food sources in this game. You have farms, you have orchards, which are kind of interchangeable with farms, really. You have pastures for livestock, fishing docks, hunting cabins, and a gatherer's hut. Starting out in most games, your first priority is to probably get a gatherer's hut, which is what we are going to do now. Let's try and get something figured out here. Okay. I'm actually trying to pre-plan out right now where I want my farms to go and where I want my trees and everything to go. The problem is we've got a lot of mountains near us, so it's not exactly optimum for farms. As a matter of fact, this is the best farmland that I'm seeing right now. Just making me a little nervous about my prospects for later on. This is pretty good for a gatherer's hut right now. So let's see how much resources we have. Not much left. Only about probably 20 logs when all is said and done, because we still got to build this, and we're almost out of stone. So let's see how much a bridge will do. I might not be able to, but we're gonna give it a shot. Whew, 64 logs and 16 stone. Fortunately, we need it because we are kind of stuck between water. And really, this is kind of part of the game, is you kind of have to deal with what your starting situation is and kind of plan. A lot of this game is planning out ahead, trying to keep up on your requirements, because otherwise you will be up the creek without a paddle. So we're going to have 5 houses built here. You can set these resources to clear. You have 3 main world resources. Starting out, you're going to have wood, stone, and iron. Iron doesn't really come into much play early on. And then you also have other resources like firewood, which you convert from regular logs. These are important to keeping your villagers alive during the winter because they need to heat their homes. If their homes aren't heated, the people will freeze to death. There is also coal, which comes in way later on. I'll explain that then. Tools, which make your people efficient at what they're doing. If they don't have tools, they're going to stink at whatever job they do. There is also food, which is obvious and self-explanatory. If you don't have food, your people starve. There's things called medicine, which is very important. So reserve of logs is already low. Then there's ale, which is responsible for keeping your people happy. And stored clothes. A lot of these resources are not important starting out. What is important is food, logs and firewood, and stone. These are the big group right here. And of course this will quickly become important too, medicine. And then tools whenever that need arises. So right now I'm just trying to get enough houses built so that all of my people have a place to live. Because, you know, I don't want them to die. Dying would be bad. Alright, let's see here. I don't think I set up my village all that well. Should be... Oh, okay, I didn't set up that house well. Oh well. Okay, so we'll have a big gap here in the middle. I can put a well down, which will be nice. That way, wells are important because disasters can happen in this game. There can be sicknesses, diseases that break out. Fire can start and burn down a lot of your buildings. Tornadoes can sweep through. Crops can fail. There's a whole bunch of bad things that can happen. This game is actively trying to get you screwed over. Your job is to not let it. So let's convert some of our people down here. We'll have 4 builders and 6 laborers. Still want this bridge to be done. It's close. We're getting there. We have almost enough logs. So this is our barn. This will be used for storing our food and any labored items, so like tools, coats, ale, will all be stored in here. This is our stockpile, which is used for any of the raw resources that we harvest other than food, so stone, wood, and iron. Okay. All of our people start out educated, which is good, so they will be effective at what they do, but once they die off, their children will not be executed. Executed? Oh no, we're executing our villagers! The children will not be educated. The bright side and the downside is, children are like they are in real life. They can be a boon and a burden. The thing that sucks about children is they eat your food, they wear your clothes, they use up your firewood, and all of that stuff, but they don't do anything as a child. They just exist, which really stinks. So they use up a lot of your resources, and they don't give you anything in return. However, now you can be in a situation where starvation will break out, and or disease will break out, and you will find yourself going like, "Oh, thank God! All my, this dark as it sounds, my children are dying off in my town. That's great, because now there won't be as many mouths eating my food. The downside is, now your future is kind of ruined, because these children are kind of what's going to be replacing your elderly when they die off. And if you don't have any children left and your people start keeling over, you're not going to be able to grow, for one. But if there's so many children not there, and you can also not have children due to low happiness, they won't have kids. If that starts to happen, then you run out of a supply of population to actually get your jobs done, and your whole town will implode on itself. And that happens a lot in this game. There's a lot of ways your town can implode. For example, all of your people run out of tools, which means that they're less effective at farming, which means that you get less food, which means that everybody starves to death. Coats are used to keep people warm during the winter, so that they're able to work longer before going home and getting warm. If they didn't have coats, they would only be able to stay out for a brief amount of time, then have to go home and warm up again. So obviously, during the winter, they would be less effective, which means you might get less food or less of what you need, and again, your town might implode and everybody will die. You kind of see where things can go a little awry. So what we're going to do is, I think we're going to use this area over here for farming. Once this bridge is done, I think what I'm going to do is start turning this area into my kind of resource production area. There's a good bit of mountains, so I'm going to use that for mining, some spots for quarries, and then I'm going to have to do some wood harvesting. Unfortunately, that's a pretty big ways away from my town, so there's going to have to be a lot of traveling. Not exactly the ideal starting position here, but I'm gonna have to make do with it, because that's the name of this game, is you just gotta make do and figure out what works for your certain situation. At first glance you might think, hey, there's a lot of water here, you know, that would be good for, what's the one food I have? I can fish. You might think, hey, that's great for fishing. Fishing is kind of a red herring in this game, I'll say. It's a really attractive source of food, because, hey, look, it's fishing. You know, it only needs a space of about this much. You know, you can build it on the coast. I think it usually ends up providing about 1,000 food a season. You know, that's great. What I've noticed is I've tried to make a few communities based off of fishing alone, and it's just not feasible. You cannot produce enough fishing places and enough population to just make an effective fishing thing. What I have noticed is that fishing is really more or less and I'm going to start one now because I need some food. We're already out. Fishing is more or less a stopgap measure. It is used to keep your people alive when the farming has failed. Sometimes certain seasons, either by glitching up, a field won't be worked, and you'll probably see that during this game. I hope that's one of the things he solves. Or just because it's a bad season for it, it doesn't grow that much, or your crops growing season, maybe winter lasted too long, and so you plant crops in the spring. So maybe winter lasted too long and you're only able to plant your crops late, or maybe winter started too early. Like you can start as early as middle of autumn, which is autumn is when you start to harvest. So you can lose almost half of your farm crops just from winter starting too early, which will kill off all your crops. When that happens, you have to rely on things like fishing and the more alternative forms of food gathering to keep you afloat long enough to the next season. So something a lot of people, I think, have made mistakes on is that they put all their eggs in one basket in terms of their food production. They might make strictly all farms or all fishing or all gathering. As a matter of fact, gathering is a really good source of early food production. So they might do all that, and then all of their people will, starve to death because maybe their crops will fail or they'll get an infestation, and then all their crops will fail. You need a diversified. You should rely on farming. Farming should be your primary food source, is what I've noticed. So don't let all the things that could go wrong with farming dissuade you. You should still rely on farming. It is the most effective means of getting food. You get the most bang for your buck out of farming and all of that nonsense. But you do also want some people fishing, some people gathering, because it's important to keep your town afloat when things do go wrong. That is a lot of this game, is planning ahead, being ready for if something goes awry. Maybe a lot of your people die of old age all at once, or maybe you get a disease and it kills off a lot of your woodcutters. You should have a good stockpile of wood behind to accommodate for that. So it's a lot of planning ahead. So what I'm doing right now, because I realize I've been rambling here for a while, I've built my homes, building a ring of homes here. That will be our housing. What I'm building right here is a woodcutter. We're going to need firewood for the next winter, so that's important. I'm also building a fishery because early on, fishing and what do we got over here? The gathering are two very important means of resource gathering. As a matter of fact, we've already got one house that is out of food and out of firewood, so we're going to have to hopefully quickly get some of these problems remedied here. I'm going to put our gatherer, let's see, right here. You'll notice that there is a yellow circle around that. That is the range of what it is. Ideally, this would be surrounded by all woods. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a mountain there, but that's okay. It's not a terrible situation. It'd probably be working about 80-85%, judging by that circle. But what we're going to do is, this is a trick I will teach you guys that some people know and not all people do. Other than herbalists, which gather medicine for your town, all of the natural resource gathering ones, like foresters, gatherers, and where's the other one? Hunters, hunting lodge, which is used right here. So let me see, put down a hunting lodge like this. Or no, that's a forester lodge. This is the hunting cabin. There we go. So hunting cabin, the gatherer's hut, and the forester all just need trees. They don't need old trees. They just need any sort of tree. Oh, there we go. Hold on real quick. I'm going to assign my jobs here. I accidentally closed it. I'll do that a lot. I will accidentally close my people job listing here. So let's set our fishermen to start gathering us some fish. Need 4 of them. So they all need trees. So right now I put down a gathering hut. What you also saw me do is I set my stone and my iron to be cleared. What that does is it clears up more space in my circle here for trees to grow, which means that they'll be even more efficient. So in places that you're doing things that rely on trees, clear everything else out that would get in the way, like buildings, except for the trees. Leave the trees behind. What you're also going to see me do, not just yet, but soon, is next to this gatherer's hut, I will also put down wherever it is, a forester's lodge. Right here. What a forester's lodge does is it will grow and chop down trees constantly. That's useful putting them next to each other because all the gatherer's hut needs is a forest. So the forester's lodge will keep the forest there while also providing you with lumber, while the gatherer's hut will provide you with food. In turn, you can also add a hunting cabin to that group, so you'll have a small enclave over here, which will in turn hunt the wildlife in the woods that is growing there. The only thing you shouldn't really put there is a herbalist. An herbalist is kind of like the medicine man of your town. He'll gather a bunch of herbs, but he needs old trees. Not new trees, old trees. The problem with putting everything around a forester's lodge is forester's lodge will keep cutting down trees and planting new trees. That's fine for gathering food and for hunting, but for an herbalist you need old trees. So make sure you put your herbalist someplace that's kind of untouched by your civilization. So we got our fishing hut done. They're already producing some fish for us here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a dirt road so that they'll move quicker. Roads are very important. Dirt roads, I think, increase people's travel time by 50%. Stone roads increase it by 100%. This is extremely important. It may seem like a silly and trivial thing, but it is not. It is extremely important for the efficiency of your town. The faster people move, the more food that they can harvest and transport to where it needs to go. So right now, my only other priority is, and I want them to get it done, is this woodcutter right here. We don't need this last house, but we do need the woodcutter. So we've got enough resources for it, but it's already the early summer. I want to start producing some firewood before winter rolls around, especially for this house right here, which is already out of food and out of firewood. Then they can also produce this gatherer's hut. We've also got a few more laborers, which is great. Let's see. Actually, do we have... Okay, this person's still working on the house. That'll be done soon. There's three stages for building a house. There's a removal stage, there's the placement stage, and the building stage. The removal stages, they go and clear out any trees or shrubs that's blocking it. The placement stages, they carry over the wood and stone or iron that is necessary for finishing it. Then the building stages, they put all those resources together and actually erect the house. Sometimes it's not as effective, that your villagers aren't as efficient at it. There's some weird prioritizing that happens in this game. And sometimes you might think your villagers aren't doing anything and you're just being dumb because you don't have enough resources. You might see like a whole host of houses and you're wondering, why aren't my houses going up? And then you look down there and you don't have any wood left. Well, that's obviously not going to be built. So early on, the best thing to do is to manually clear out a whole area because you're going to need resources quick and fast. But later on in the game, there's more renewable means of getting resources, like the Forester's Lodge for wood instead of clearing out a forest manually. Or you can also build quarries to get stone from the earth, and iron, or mines to get iron and coal from the mountainsides. So while this is a very quick way of getting resources to set all this to be cleared, it's also a non-renewable means, and it also can could put you into a dire situation. Like, say I clear all these woods out and all of a sudden I realize, oh no, I need an herbalist. Well, I don't have any woods anymore to build my herbalist at, and I have to build them further away. It is very important to make sure that you have homes close to whatever jobs that they're doing, because there's less travel time to get to work, so they spend more time of the day actually doing the work they need to do and less time actually getting there. I realize I'm talking a lot. This is my type of game. In case you haven't noticed, I'm a big kind of strategy guy, so I like to plan things out. I like to kind of crunch the numbers in my head and see what works and what doesn't. I won't be able to build a house there, unfortunately. Something I have also noticed, you want to space your buildings out. Inevitably, there will come a time when one of your buildings will catch fire. And if all of your buildings are crammed up right next to each other, like you'll notice that I am keeping gaps between all of my buildings here. If you cram all your houses up next to each other so you don't leave any space between them and a fire breaks out, you will quickly see that fire burn out of control. So I know people like to be efficient and put things right on top of each other. You should not do that in this game. That was a quick way to get your entire village burned down. And when that happens, you are in for some dire straits, because say, you know, if my woodcutter burns down, suddenly no one's able to produce firewood for me. If 5 of my houses burn down, then suddenly all of 5 of my families are exposed to the elements. So again, you want to plan everything out. So building town management is as much a part of survival in this game as resource management. Planning out the layout of your town, the spacing of your town. Eventually, I'm going to put down a well here. It's going to be right here. Wells are useful for boosting happiness for one, but then they also help prevent fires in your village. They help reduce the spreading risk of it, and can put them out more quickly. So a lot of things to take into account, and I'll explain it more later on. Right now I just want to get started here. So hopefully our fishing dock is giving us a decent amount of food. Looks like they are. Still doesn't seem like we have enough. Oh no, whoever's in this house should be getting food at this point. We have 70 stored away. And looks like more on its way. Okay, we have our woodcutter now. He can start cutting us some firewood. We've got enough logs for him to do his work as well. We'll also reduce the number of builders here until this gatherer's hut is done. Builders is probably going to be one of your most fluid changing of jobs. Obviously, on the left-hand column is the amount of people assigned to that job. On the right-hand column is the available positions for that job. So if I wanted, I could have 2 woodcutters, but one of them isn't going to have really any work to do because you only need 1 woodcutter for a woodcutter's cabin. A place like a fishing dock, if I click on it, you'll see up here 4 of 4. Most fishing docks in farms that are max size will only need about 4 to run at peak efficiency. Now you also see there's a circle around my fishing dock here that also determines the efficiency, just like the Gatherer's Lodge that you saw. The circle, I want to get as many trees in there as possible. With the fishing dock, you want to get as much water in there as possible. So putting like on a outcropping like if this was flat right here, this would be a great place to put a fishing dock because there's all of this water here. Let's see, some place like this would be a great place because there's water that stretches around behind, there's water that's in front. I'm trying to think if there's any other good places. Maybe some place like right here would be a good fishing dock because you would get all of this area. So it'd be a highly efficient fishing dock. But that's ways on ahead. Right now, we are just trying to survive our first winter. Much like the first night in Minecraft, the first winter can be one of your hardest challenges to face. That's why you don't want to speed through your initial starting, because it's pretty important to make sure everything is being well taken care of. Okay, he's already producing some firewood. That's good. We've only gone through 2 tools, and we've almost got a full stockpile already. The other housing that we can build, I'm building wooden houses right now. Eventually you can build stone houses, but they require a lot of resources. They require 24 wood, 40 stone, whereas these only require about 8, sorry. So it requires more wood and more stone than these by a good bit. And it also requires iron. So, but the advantages to building a stone house over a wooden house is stone houses are much more efficient at keeping people warm, and just generally they can store more things in it. And it's I guess the biggest thing is it's more efficient at keeping your people warm, which means you go through less firewood, which means you go through less logs, which as you get later on in the game, you're going to start to run out of woods as you begin to spread your village into a town and then eventually into a city. So you're going to want those houses to become stone. Like I can even upgrade these if I wanted to, because you're going to have less wood to work with, so you're going to want to be getting more bang for your buck. It's all about optimization in this game. The developer has announced that he does want to eventually add a few more things. This game just released, so his primary focus at the moment is to work on bugs and issues. So people were having issues with the game crashing at start or just not starting at all. There are some glitches in the game that people were noticing that he was going to work on. And eventually he also wanted to work on cross-platform, so he wants to be able to get Mac users to be able to use this game, and Linux. I think it's only available on Windows at the moment. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to do research on that, but I know for a fact it's available on Windows, but I think he also wants to get it available for Mac and Linux. Later on down the road, and he's being hesitant and pensive about it. He's like, I'd like to, but my priority right now is to just work on debugging and expanding this game. But if that's all said and done in a relatively effective amount of time, and he doesn't really have another game idea that he wants to work on, he might like to add some new stuff to this game. I don't know exactly what his plans are. I don't think he said. I think it would be neat to add maybe a multiplayer element, like you'd be able to trade with other towns, kind of like how SimCity was for EA. I know that's kind of a taboo thing to bring up, but it was interesting to be able to kind of exchange your resources with other players. I would also maybe like to see kind of a dwarf fortressy, you need to have guards or people protecting your town, like maybe you will occasionally be raided, or you'll have to join a particular kingdom and eventually defend yourself against potential invasions or stuff like that. That would be cool, you know, like on top of having to survive the elements, you also have to survive other people, or maybe, you know, kind of have a Majesty-esque element where you have another town, like bigger maps with other towns developing, and you kind of have to compete with them for resources. That would all be kind of cool, but as it is, I don't want to detract from what this game is right now, which is a challenge, but a fun challenge. And this has kind of gotten a lot of attention lately. A lot of players, a lot of people, like TB has done his WTF is on this game, and Sips, who was really popular in the towns for a while, which I was also into, has also done a bit of this game. This is really kind of a niche game. If you're not into the town building kind of game, then this isn't going to really float your boat. But if you are into these whole survival meta and managing a town and trying to make it efficient and get your people to survive and see if you can survive the elements, this is going to be a game that you will probably enjoy. So what we've done is, I'm going to recap real quick before I close out here. We've built our houses up. That's what you want to do at the start of any game, is build your lodging. We also got a food supply going here, enough hopefully that will last us the winter. The nice thing about fishing is that it'll continue all throughout the year, so it doesn't matter if it's snowing, wet, cold, hot, you know, any of those elements, you're still going to always get fish. So it's one of the good starting ones. The other good one as a good supply of food early on is the Gatherer's Hut. It gives you a really nice supply of food early on. And of course we need a woodcutter. Those are our primary necessities right now. As we move into our next episode, we're going to probably focus on making sure that we start getting some clothes done, some hunting going to provide us with leather. We might even begin our first farm to set up a more effective means of food. But for now, that's going to be it for our first episode in the founding of Eckoburg. I want to thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for part 2.